Now, the reality of some of this is that the homicide and violent crimes affect every demographic in our city, but it really plagues Louisville's African American community, especially in a small number of neighborhoods, in a really unfair and heartbreaking way. These are the same neighborhoods where we see challenging statistics with health outcomes, education outcomes, employment outcomes, etc. And nobody chooses where they're born, but they have to deal with that reality. What we can do is change the future. We can't worry about the past. We have to understand the past, but we have to move forward as well. And that's why this strategy we have goes beyond enforcing crime or enforcing the law and works on more of these preventive measures. And a couple of those, our Summer Works program is an example. When we started our program for summer jobs for youth, the first year we had 200 kids employed. Last summer we had 5,200 kids employed. Why is that important? We see a disproportionate number of homicides taking place with youth ages 16 to 21 between the hours of 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. We know that if they're working, their odds of being involved in a homicide go way down, in addition to building their capacity. We have a program called Reimage, where we get involved with youth 16 to 24 that have been court involved. We've had 250 young men and women that we've been involved with over the last two years, 250. Recidivism rate amongst those 250, only 5%. Okay, so when people tell you these programs don't work, let us share the statistics with you. What we know is that most children, all they want is they want somebody to love them, some expectations, some structure, some discipline. If you apply that to the bulk of our kids, they will succeed. But society and our family structure has let a lot of our kids down, and we can moralize on it, that it's a shame, it shouldn't be that way, but that's reality. And the chief, Rashad, Anthony, myself, Jeff, we are in the reality business. We can't be talking about some fairyland world where this does not work. So, but there are solutions out there as well. The other issue is leaning into conversation so people understand our history, especially in this post-Charlottesville environment, leaning into issues around racism, Confederacy, slavery, how these historical facts, the original sin of our country, still weighs on us and still affects people and neighborhoods to this very day. So people can understand the history, but then say, okay, then what? Do something about it in a positive way in terms of changing policy, procurement decisions, hiring decisions, whatever it might be. Getting involved with My Brother's Keeper, the Black Male Achievement work that I've talked about as well. And these conversations we're having in our city around equity and race make a lot of people uncomfortable, specifically white people uncomfortable. And that's too bad. These are the kind of conversations that our country needs to have so that we can not embrace our past, but understand what our past is so that we make sure that we're creating a future and a present that has opportunity for everyone. Because whether it's a so-called radicalized Islamic terrorist in the United Kingdom or a disaffected young boy of color here in Louisville, they share the same thing. They feel disconnected and hopeless about a positive future. And until we address those underlying issues, we will continue to see challenges the kind of challenges that we are seeing right now. Let me just make a few comments, and then I'll close here and give it to Jeff. I visited the United Kingdom this past January. I was a guest of City Center or City Lab. What's it? City Hall. City Hall. And they asked me to come and speak about a variety of different issues over there, but I had the opportunity to spend some time in a couple conversations about radicalization in the United Kingdom and the country's efforts to obviously eliminate and decrease radicalization. And I was struck by a couple things. First, I started with a visit with Mayor Sadiq Khan. I should kind of centralize that here about the Ali Center. Mayor Khan is the mayor of London, great global figure. He happens to be a huge Muhammad Ali fan. The meeting started with him telling me that he was very upset with me. And I said, what's the problem? He goes, look at this gift that you brought over to me. Normally when you go somewhere, I don't bring gifts, they give gifts to you when you visit. But I knew he's a big Ali fan, so I worked with the Muhammad Ali Center, and so we sent him a really nice picture of Muhammad Ali. And he was very excited about that, being an Ali fan. And so he was going on and on about that. I said, have you looked closely at the picture? He said, yes, but what's your point? The picture we sent to him, tongue-in-cheek, was a picture of Muhammad Ali whooping Henry Cooper. And Henry Cooper was the famous UK boxing champion. So it was a little tongue-in-cheek that, yes, we're sending you love from Louisville, but we want to let you know that our guy whipped your guy really bad, okay? That was the start of the trip. But it really went well. So we were there to talk about the soft power that mayors can exert in cities in terms of convening like this. And it's a relatively new thing for many mayors in the United Kingdom because they're really overly dependent on their federal government here in the United Kingdom. So we were there to talk about that, and as we talked about radicalization, a couple thoughts came to mind. You know, they are using their school system they're training their teachers to identify people that they're concerned about that might be radicalized, okay, or going through the process of being radicalized so that they can intervene. And when you think about, especially in Louisville or other cities in America, when a young boy or a young man decides to change his life to a life of crime, dealing dope, carrying guns, there are changes in behavior and appearance that you can identify. You know, Steve shows up at school one day, he's got really nice new clothes on, he's behaving in a different way, something has changed. It may not be something to be concerned about, but there's an issue that's going on. So same type of approach they're training teachers in the UK to identify any changes in behavior that should be alerted to say, hey, let's spend a little bit more time with this individual to see what's going on. Because when you think about radicalized terror from a religious standpoint, these are folks that are deciding to withdraw from the norms of society because they're disaffected in some type of way. When you think about people that are withdrawing from traditional economy and the traditional mainstream way of life in America, they are also feeling disconnected in some sort of way. So radicalized terrorism can have much larger effects, especially through suicide bombing. You see that in the concert that was talked about in Manchester, where our terror can be a neighborhood that feels terrorized, that they feel like that they cannot identify people that are involved with violence for fear that they might become involved with that when somebody decides to take them out. So I felt that there was a lot of similarities between what the United Kingdom and many cities in Europe are trying to do right now as they address this real threat of radicalization as well. And the same similarities that we have in the United States on a less wholesale type of basis. The key is how do you interrupt that and how do you build capacity. The other issue is America has difficulty talking about race and racism and our history behind that. Europe is having difficulty having conversations around religion, religious extremism, without some people getting their backs all up about that and moving toward a common solution. So it's the human dynamic of behavior that's central to all this. And an individual that has just been so effective at understanding some of this and fighting the battle has been Jeff Thompson. Jeff has been a leader in this work for a long time, has a global perspective on both challenges and solutions, and we're just so delighted that he's here in our city through here all the way through the Muhammad Ali Humanitarian Awards this weekend so that he can share his insights with our great city. So Jeff, come on up here and please share your thoughts with us.